Good morning, everybody. So I hope everybody is awake after I know some of you had a long night last night, so I'll try to make it as entertaining as possible. In today's agenda, first of all, I wanted to present me. So I'm a Senior Director of Global Distribution for Jumeirah. So Jumeirah Hotel Group, for those who don't know, we're a company based out of Dubai. And I don't have my first slide, but you should have seen the Burj Al Arab, which is kind of the sale hotel that everybody knows in Dubai. So we're really luxury. We have properties also in Europe and in Asia. Today's agenda is I'm going to go through on how travel was disrupted by internet and technology overall. I'm going to focus, I know it's mainly Europe, but I wanted to focus, I actually share some insights with you in terms of what we have direct distribution in the Middle East. Booking.basic and why this is changing everything. I think we've heard a lot about it. I'll probably repeat a little bit of what I said, but I think it's very important to understand really what that has impacted. I've also worked 3 years in car rental in 2008, and I'm going to go through and actually what happened within travel, but with another similar industry. And I think it's always interesting to see what happened, why, and how that was done. And also, we're going through rate parity management. We're going through changing from static to a dynamic environment. In Dubai, destination management companies are still, DMCs are very still important. So I really feel the pain that everybody is feeling now is actually still, we still have a lot of static that brings us a really good business actually. And we need to understand also, what will be your impact on your sales organization. And I think this is key actually on really communicating internally, working together. So how travel was disrupted. So I think you all know that. Obviously in the good old days, there was a GDS that came in. Then the key launches, Travelicity in '96 was launched in also Expedia. And then Priceline, Name Your Own Price, was set up. At the time when I started my career, that was like a big thing. And obviously Priceline at the time also didn't have Booking.com. Then you can see all the time all that was done, and with Priceline buying Booking.com and all the mergers. And obviously in the past few years, Expedia merged a lot, and now we have two basically key players, which is Expedia and Booking.com. So for me, distribution 15 years ago, was quite simple. It was very siloed. You had the GDS, the travel agent that was more corporate, and the wholesaler that will sell to two operators, and everything was separated from the OTAs, from the brand.com, or at least as we knew. Actually, it's funny to mention, but I remember 15 years ago, I was in this exact same hotel. Remember also my boss at the time still having like Hotelopia and Octopus Travel, and doing rate parity. So at that time, I think everybody thought that, everything is siloed, nothing touches each other. That was a good old day, it was quite easy. Middle East online travel. So I think this slide is really good. These are numbers from Focusrite. So that's a study which was released recently. And I think it's really understand to compare how lodging is doing versus airline and car rental. So as you can see, we're sitting on the lodging. So supplier direct, and that's everybody in the Middle East. So you have the big chains like Accor, Marriott, and so on and so forth. I have a little bit more details on that. We're doing 5% direct and 26% through OTAs in the Middle East. Within the same region, and you're looking at the online penetration, and obviously you can see that car rental and airline is exactly the opposite. So that for me really says there's really something that we're probably not doing right. But obviously, there's a huge opportunity there for everybody to really have that change. And says why airline or car rental in the same industry can do that, and hotels around 20% or 22% direct. But why hotel are we only at 5%? The good thing for Jumeirah is we're actually much higher than this 5%, but still, and even the big chains in the Middle East, Booking.com is extremely big in the Middle East. One of the main reasons is they were the first one to have Arabic as a booking engine. And still, I think I've heard that I think there's still a lot of people, a lot of customers that still believe they get the best rate out of those OTAs. So if you're looking at more specific statistics about lodging, and I heard, I think, someone talking about the shitty hotels again. So actually you can see whether it's a star rating. You have a slightly different, so 3-star or less is 3%, and 5-star is around 8%. Again, that's all chains. And within the OTA, so you can really see, I think, if you have a good product, if you work on your product, if you work also, I think one thing that I haven't heard is, what are we doing to get direct booking, but how do you differentiate ourselves? And I believe also that some of those numbers there because, we've become a commodity. And I think that's not right. And what can we do with a product also to really differentiate ourselves versus our comp set. So, and that's what struck me, I'm a branded hotel, but we are very regional, even though we have international hotels, and I was thinking, the Accor, the Marriott, the big ones, all the global chains, they're gonna be so much better than us, and actually even in the Middle East, global chains only have 7%. And still the OTA in the Middle East is there. And non-branded goes to 2%. So you can see, obviously, there's a big uplift, but there's still a lot to go. And again, for me, big opportunity there. Good thing here, and I can't obviously give too much details, but Jumeirah, year to date this year, we're at double-digit growth on direct bookings. And we can see a shift, and I'm actually talking with a lot of things, is actually Booking.com is slowing down quite a bit, and we can see a big shift from OTS through direct, which is great, and which is a big change actually in the Middle East. So I think this will change over time. Okay. So now, Booking.basic and why this is changing everything. I've worked for 15 years in the industry, and I remember, as I said, 15 years ago, sitting here, talking about the same thing, rate parity, why we can find the rate online. But, for many, many years, I think nobody knew where it was coming from. Nobody really paid attention. And as much as this is, and I think everybody knows this is very difficult to manage, I want to take this as an opportunity to say, you know what, I think now this is going to change the industry. It's actually really bad, but this is really putting, I think, hotels, we keep shooting ourselves in the foot. And there are things that all of those things we can change this ourselves. And obviously now that we have this Booking.basic thing, is that impacts the hotel ranking already, the performance also, losing Booking to Booking.basic. By the way, when we talk to Booking.com, ask them how much production you're getting through that to understand that. And you're losing Booking also, and actually now they're penalizing us. And I think, the Booking.com, again, there was the one that everybody was really happy, it was a low commission, and we've all seen how they've grown, become a monster, and now actually not that hotel friendly anymore. So, and the bed bank model, I think what a lot of people don't understand, and maybe also the sales team, is what do a bed bank wholesaler do? And most of the time when I discuss with them, you know what, they're connected to each other every time. So, every bed bank, will want to have a dynamic contract, a static contract with you, merchant contract or a static contract, but they're all also going to be connected to other bed banks. They're going to be connected to OTAs also, to DMC, or at least that's what I'm saying. And at the end, what they're going to do is actually whatever is what they want is the cheapest rate for you. That's all. And I think I've heard this. They're all here, and all those guys are here to get the most money out of us. So it's up to us to also define what type of rules we want to get with them. And I think, and that's what I've seen before. Short distribution, that's what I mean. Usually, the travel agent goes, they have their login and their password. At the end, it doesn't go online, so that's not as bad. The problem is the long distribution, and with technology, and that's what I said when I said we were disrupted. Everybody is talking about XML, and when you have someone that starts talking about XML and how many people they're connected to, this is what I believe we really have to be extremely careful on how we want to work with them. So that's what I said. I spent 3 years in car rental. I'll be honest with you, the 3 years I spent in car rental, I was missing hotels, but it taught me a lot. So I joined Europcar in 2008. There was a lot of issues. So the car rental, and I should have gone back actually starting with that. At the time, what we were talking about the broker model. So it was volume, 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 no parity versus car rental. So at the time, all I had learned, and I was working with Accor at the time, working with rate parity, connectivity, and then suddenly I come to car rental and they're like, no, we give them wholesale rate and additional benefits for free, static pricing, manual reservation, all of that. So I was a bit shocked. I always thought that, car rental will be a lot more evolved. And it was a full opaque model. And this is where I've seen. So from a full opaque model, I remember when I was in car rental, you didn't see any of the logos. So 10 years ago, you went, that's rentalcars.com, which is owned by Booking.com. You didn't see anything. And now I can see, where versus Europcar, actually, they're actually cheaper. Direct is actually cheaper. Still, they have those secret deals and all the opaque model and that things, but that was a huge change. So there was a financial crisis in 2008, and you got to understand that actually the car rental, they don't own their own inventory. So the buyback contracting is actually with a car manufacturer. All the car rental will go and buy 10, 20,000 cars and they say, you know what, I'm buying you in that price, and 6 months after, I'm going to resell it to you. So with the crisis, actually, the car sales plummeted, then suddenly the second-hand market was flooded. And then the car manufacturer, like Renault and Peugeot, they said, you know what we sell to car rental is not really, that's not our profitable business, so we shrinked our inventory. So suddenly it was a matter of, you know what, we need to start working and we need to cherry pick which inventory we want to give it to. So I was the guys that actually came back, and I had to we had to adjust our sales strategy. So what happened is basically suddenly says you have to connect, you need to move to a commissionable level, and we're going to dictate the price, and you have to work on parity. So that was done 10 years ago in the car rental industry. I know it's still not perfect, but all of this was done, and they don't work on this model anymore. So rate parity management. So I want to share actually some numbers with you on what I've been through in the past 11 months that I've joined Jumeirah. By the way, like I'm doing search, and I think I've done search for this hotel, and I found some disparity also, and it's not just, I think the independent hotels, the big chains also have the same issue. So what is rate parity? So we define it by having the same rate for the same room with the same terms and conditions available in online distribution at the same time, regardless of what commission or discount we give them. Obviously, this rate is your best rate guarantee. Conversion rate on your website will also be affected. Loss on room profit, rate dilution. negative impact on commercial relationship with OTAs, and negative impact on guest satisfaction and guest loyalty. Believe me, since Booking.basic, and I hate it as much as it's actually helping me, I've got so many GMs or hotels calling me as, oh, there's a guest complaining, and he's seen this. And obviously, the front office don't know how to really to respond to that. So what we've done, we've worked with 2 technical partners and actually having 2 to 4 test booking for each of our hotel. So we do this centrally in order to really understand what is done. So in the past 6-8 months, we've done 300 test booking. And this is what happened. 65% of those came from bed banks. I'm not going to say who they are. I'm sure you can figure that out. 20% from DMCs that are really specific to the Dubai market. Actually, 5% from OTAs. And I'll put the other one from others as this really small account that is a bit more to try. But basically, yeah, it's bed bank. I would call them bed banks that really come into. So what we're going to now is actually the source of this issue is actually with the sales team and with education. So now we're going on training the sales team, and I think this is what's very important, maybe something I haven't heard since the beginning is how do we get the sales team and everybody in the hotel to understand those problems and understand what needs to be done. Also, what we've done now, and it's since I came, it's all about trying to sell internally what needs to be done. So now I had to explain everything, and I came, you know what? We should go to fully dynamic. We're never, and that's the whack hole, I think that you said, you know, we stop one, another one comes up. It's just a never-ending story, right? So what we've done, obviously, that's very scary. You still have revenue, and everybody think you're going to lose revenue. So I said, you know what? Let's take the 5 properties that have the lowest revenues through this segment, and we're going to go in full dynamic model. And actually, most of them, we were doing both dynamic and static, right? So, you know, I'm like, you know, it's not like we're going to close an account. We're just going to work on one model only. So one of all the different thing is also to understand where the causes of all of that comes from, you know. There's incorrect rate management in the system. I think we need to understand that also, you know, today's, you know, when you have a revenue management system, a PMS, a CRS, I mean, all those systems that talk together, unfortunately, it's not always easy. I also deal with all the OTAs, you know, what can they support, what they cannot support, and all of those type. Room type mapping and all the setup that needs to be done. Also, you know, sales of package rate as standalone, package price disclosure on public channel, rate modification. So sales, some people will sell them their bar, but they're still going to play. And you know, we all know that with the advanced purchase now with Booking.com. And unauthorized redistribution on rates by retail agents, so agent rate posting. So, you know, it's resold, and then somebody sells it to someone, and then this someone will sell it again. So what we've done, this is one example, and this is what Booking.com, and probably most of you would have seen this. So suddenly, I think you can see, we used to have rate disparity on average around 25%. And this is, so we reduced price, relative price difference from 25 to 5 to 6%. So yes, this is not going to solve everything. However, obviously, when you come from 25% different to 5%, that has a huge impact. Suddenly, our price quality score with Booking.com increased from 12 to more than 50 in like a few weeks. Suddenly, our ranking increases, and the revenue increases also through the OTAs. And we actually increased the RGI. So everybody, all the sales team came back to me and like, you know, we are never going to be able to replace that. It just came with different channels. And the retail segment more than compensated the loss of wholesale, and it compensated on a higher ADR. And the funniest thing is actually this is some connectivity partners, and we have a lot of connectivity, maybe a bit too many, and this is some of the things that you need to go through. But suddenly, some connectivity partners started producing out of nowhere. Suddenly, they're competitive versus the other bed banks, and you can see, so it's very positive so far. We've done that on 5 properties. I think there was one property where in London where last month was a bit difficult, but it was Ramadan. Actually, our properties, because we're very well known in the Middle East, that impacted because there was Ramadan. But actually, June is looking really good. So overall, it's a very good feedback. And what we're doing, and I've heard that also, what we're putting also is we've moved to looking at net revenue. And also one of the things that I'm looking at also is about wholesale and dynamic versus static is all comes from data, and you need to have the right data, you need to have the right reporting in place. And every month I can see, wholesale went in, retail went down. Obviously, and then you look at the ADR or net ADR and you understand why. Most of the time it's an issue of pricing. By the way, I forgot to mention something. Obviously, we're at Book Direct, but I think that was hidden on this. Obviously, on Direct, we had a good impact. Also, on Jumeirah.com, the conversion really increased also after this rate parity. And we obviously got more direct bookings. So the way I see it is today you should follow the following steps, and first you need to start test booking, and I think everybody's done that. If you can't do this, I would personally said try to get on with a third-party technology, because those wholesalers are getting extremely clever, and they're going to start what we've seen, and we start doing manually, and it was complicated, and when we have a lot of hotels, but also they're going to start knowing that it's you, it's the same credit card, they're not going to send you the booking, and you're not going to find out, so they're very tricky. Work on wholesale accounts to connect them. If you're afraid to lose the business, that's probably a first good step. More volume from static to dynamic. Static contract also, that's for accounts that do not manage them correctly. And that's the issue. And I think that's the issue. I believe that static is not dead, though. I think there's customers that need it, and we have some static account that we don't have any problem with, by the way. That needs to be planned properly, and I think for me, or at least within the chain, is a 1 to 2 year project, and obviously depending on how much you're reliant on that. As I said, we've done it in some properties, mostly in Europe, because this is where we had the lowest, in order to prove and then be able to do it throughout the chain. Oops, sorry. So then also, I went on the distribution sales cycle. At the end, for me, sales, whether it's distribution, whether it's wholesale, it all goes through to the same way. You need to contract, you need to do a RFP, you need to load the rates, and then you have content management, market management, and then marketing opportunities. So distribution is no different from sales. And I think that's the key to really go through this, is really going through that through your sales team. What we're doing also now is actually saying, you know what? Those accounts that sales used to manage and were on static, that goes to dynamic, sales will still need to be involved. And I think to what I see from Hyatt yesterday, you still need to manage those accounts. They're just changing the way you work with them. Train your sales team. I think the key thing also is to say, like your sales team needs to go and get the contract, but you need someone to go and look at those contracts, understand it. But also, for me, is I today have so many people that said, I want to connect. Okay, they're all so great and everything, but what will be your added value in connecting to yet another partner? what is his added value? What is the key source market that you're targeting? What's your strategy? And I think it all comes back to what's your strategy? What do you want to do? And actually follow that strategy. And it's not about connecting to 100 people. It's about finding the right client for you that will work, that you will work together, and that will work within your terms, and to have the best partnership with them. So thank you very much.
Nicolas, thank you. Any questions? Great.
Hi. Is there a specific distribution channel or segment that replaced, that shortfall from wholesale once you restricted it? Is there one that you can pinpoint?
Yes. I mean, a lot of it came back from, I'll be honest with you, through OTAs. And obviously direct also. So it's really all went to retail. So we have a specific segment, which is TPI. So a lot of it came from that, but also actually we have a market segment within Jumeirah. Anything which is dynamic, we call it TPI, but now we are going to change it also to work more with the sales team. What we're doing now, we're introducing a new market segment next year, which will be wholesale dynamic. So still the sales team now are also incentivized to really change, to go to dynamic. And now since we've introduced that, I have salespeople coming to me and actually, you know what, they want to connect, this is how they want to do it, but every contract coming through me, and I can go through all those terms and conditions and challenge the team, but this is really now sales and distribution together, and I think this is what has changed mainly.
Thank you.
I was wondering, because you said that your rate parity issues dropped quite a lot since you started working dynamic. Are you actually also actively trying to work on reducing the percentage of wholesale bookings that you get by no longer signing any contracts, or at least signing less contracts per year?
Yeah, this is one of the things that now I'm working is actually, we have a lot of connectivity. We're starting reducing it for many different reasons because, all the mapping and everything you have to do, there's a lot of work. So now we're also looking at that, but also looking at what other partners we could have on different source markets. So now we're really going through these things because we were very heavily dependent on 2 or 3 source markets. So now we're trying to say, okay, we actually need to diversify. And I think we got to be careful also in having the OTAs not to be too big. So I think you still need to diversify your accounts. Otherwise, you're going to get too dependent. And Booking.com, if they keep growing and growing and growing, at some point, we're not going to be able to manage them correctly. So for me, it's still very important to have a diversify accounts, but you shouldn't have, we used to have many different wholesale accounts. We're reducing them now to a bare minimum. Some hotels where we didn't have, we completely stopped it. But now I'm working on having more dynamic clients, and there's pros and cons, but we also need to make sure that the revenue is still coming and we can diversify, and we don't want to be too reliant on just 2 partners.
Great.
All right.
Any other questions? Yeah, Charlie.
First of all, congratulations, and thank you for sharing the story with us.
Yeah,
so
there's still a lot to go through.
Well, I guess that's what I'm interested in. So
but
what comes next? You have
it's heading in the right direction. What will come next is now we've done this, and I've just joined like 11 months ago, so it's a lot of convincing. What comes next is actually for the Dubai properties, we still have a substantial amount that comes through that. So obviously, we're not going to stop it from one day to another, and I'll be honest with you. I think there's 2 things. First is also make sure that revenue management and the static contract are done well. Continue, specifically the 65% that make all of those test bookings and all of those parities, those we're going to stop working with them. So we've identified really the big events. I know we're going to have other ones, but at least if we can kill most of it. But now that I've actually been able to prove that for hotels they actually can work, now it's a matter of actually going through. So any new openings now, we're decided to start without wholesale. So any new hotels, last year we did this with 2 openings and it's working well also. I think it's the Dubai where we have a huge revenue through this whole segment which will be done. But as I said, there's certain accounts that I've never had any issue with. And there's certain accounts that we know the package, we know exactly what they do. And I think that the whole thing is ask when you're talking to a wholesaler or even someone that wants to connect on Dynamic, what do they do and what it will be for you and how do they redistribute. So there's some wholesaler in the UK, I'm not going to name them, they have a website and we know exactly, they sell online, but they sell hotel plus flight, we know exactly how it is, they don't resell to anybody, and we're going to continue working with them, but we also starting connecting them, so the whole point for us is also to move more dynamic in order to be able to yield, and we have a revenue management system and be able to optimize our revenue.
Can I ask one more? Which, because you mentioned companies for test bookings, and I know somebody will be wondering who. So I know of Fortnova and RateGain who are here. Is there anyone else, or are those the two?
That's the 2 that we're using.
Okay.
So we have 2 global agreements with them, and each hotel we have specific thing, and each hotel can choose what company they prefer doing. Well, all right.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you.